You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. Bad boy of X-Men podcasting, Zach Jenkins. I'm sorry. How are we, Adam?
I'm good. Did you see the weather?
Yes. As we're recording this, it's the day after Halloween, where there was snow on the ground. So,
no, that's your local forecast. I meant for the podcast because I'm seeing that the
podcast weather. What's the Doppler? What's the Doppler saying? Partly cloudy.
Doppler is saying partly cloudy for today's episode. Yeah.
Huh. You know what? I don't like clouds. Whether there's a chance of meatballs or not. And I feel like part of that, Adam, and this is a really personal thing for me.
Yeah.
Part of that is for about 2 years, there was evil clouds that were tormenting my mutants. And not in like the way that like plots can sometimes do bad things to characters I like, and that's normal.
Sure.
It was like they were clouds and it was like, this is what we're doing now? Okay. Because they're like, hey, I would like you to talk about the X-Men's arch enemies. We all know them, the Inhumans, everyone's favorite Marvel franchise.
Oh boy. Yeah. So this episode is Zach's pick. And while Zach loves to troll other people, this week he's just trolling us, and I guess me, because all of these stories are IVX era fart cloud stories where a giant fart cloud follows the X-Men around and kills them for several years.
Some of them are about the aftermath of said cloud.
Yes.
And how Inhuman mutant relations continue from that point. Hey, I know we don't like to talk about it on this show, and we also lived it, so never go back and remind us what we said in 2017, because maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was less cynical in 2017, let's be clear.
Okay.
I liked like the Paul Jenkins, Jay Lee Inhumans. I thought that was pretty good. I thought the Inhumans were kind of cool characters.
Well, because there was a time when the Inhumans would either pop up in other books, and I'll talk about one of those examples later on in this episode, or maybe they had their own, Marvel graphic novel, whatever it may be, but like they weren't the star of their own stories, like as their own superhero team. And
yeah, they had like a little thing in the 70s, and then the graphic novel that you mentioned.
Yep.
That Anna Senti then follows up for a surprising chunk of her Daredevil run is a sequel to that graphic novel.
Yes. Yes.
But then the Inhumans are just like, they show up at the same rate that you would I'm trying to think of who Marvel hasn't franchised now to make it a thing. I don't know. Like, you know how Devil Dinosaur just shows up sometimes and we're all like, oh yeah, Devil Dinosaur's here. That's about where the Inhumans were.
Well, and that's a good use of them. Once you actually start trying to tell the epic tale of these moon people, it's not as exciting. And just the sheer tenacity of this cloud following these characters around and the attempts to make it seem like it had some sort of gravitas. It did not work. Didn't work for me then. It doesn't work for me now. Zach, you picked some doozies here.
Here's the thing that people don't remember. Guys, we'll get to the real comics soon. The thing that I say people don't remember, it's more, I think, people who, if you were not deeply involved in this stuff at that time, which means like, hey, maybe you are in your 20s now, like you're early to mid 20s and weren't reading comics at that point. You might not know that there was a coordinated effort to try and get the Inhumans over. you could uncharitably say at the expense of the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Though I think in reality those are related but separate things that happened at the same time.
Yeah.
Running from a similar root cause. But then essentially Marvel being filled with people who love to lean into the controversy was like, well then, let's just make the meta story the actual story for a little bit and make nobody happy.
I don't know who was really enjoying this era. And this first one you picked, brother, this is a doozy because
I
not
had not
only
read
is
this
it
one since it first came out.
not only is this an IVX book, not from the IVX crossover, but it's Inhumans versus X-Men, but it's also the Civil War II tie-in book. Double whammy here, buddy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is a patented Zach's pick. And folks, if you want your own picks, you can go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. And for $5, which is, I believe, the cover price of X-Men Civil War II X-Men #1. Hold on, now I have to no, the cover.
It's
This is a
$3.99.
$3.99. It's
Yeah.
$3.99. So just a bit more than this comic book. Well, you can torture us with your own picks, or be nice and say, "Hey, here's a hidden gem," and then potentially torture yourself when we hate it. That's happened more than once.
Can I say something nice about Civil War II X-Men #1?
I would love you to say something nice about Civil War II X-Men #1. Then I'm going to say something mean about Civil War II in general as a concept.
All right, so I'm going to say something nice. This David Yardin cover of the first issue, pretty nice. That's a nice cover. That's a pretty well drawn.
Kind of all the David Yardin covers on these are kind of all really good. I like them.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. The interior art here is by Andrea Briccardo and Colin Bunn.
Friend of the show.
Here. Yes, friend of the show, Colin Bunn. Now, you were going to say something mean
about Civil War II. Here's what I have to say mean about Civil War II. I've mentioned on this podcast in the past that my oldest child and I read all of the G. Willow Wilson Ms. Marvel in the not too distant past.
Right.
Oddly enough, explaining Secret Wars as a crossover was pretty straightforward. Because I was like, hey, bud, the world's kind of going to end and everyone's going to die at the end.
Okay.
And then I said Miles gave the Molecule Man a burger and the world got saved. And he said, who's the Molecule Man? I said, we don't have time for this.
Don't worry about it.
Completely accepting of Miles Morales having a pocket burger to give to the Molecule Man. He's like, yeah, no, that all tracks. I know Miles. I know storing food for later. Get it.
Great moments in comics history.
Great. Jeez. Listen, Secret Wars. It's not an X-Men comic, so it'll never be on this list. But, bud, there's some pages from Secret Wars that I think about daily.
Crazy stuff.
Anyway, however, explaining Civil War II and the ramifications to Kamala's relationship with Carol Danvers and why Carol Danvers would do any of this difficult to explain to the child. He's like, should we read Civil War II? No. He's like, does this have to do with what Abraham Lincoln did? And I said, no, but I'm glad we're having these conversations.
Oh, God.
My son's a firm abolitionist, so I'm just going to tell you, he thinks Abraham Lincoln was probably the best president because that was a bad thing that we were doing, and it's good that he stopped that.
I love this vantage point. So
he's got a lot of thoughts on the Civil War.
I stand with you and your son because the sequel to Civil War, which I would argue should never have happened. I mean, it really just seems like a branding convention that they tried to figure something out for. Centers around, if you don't remember it, a precog. So it centers around the idea that the Inhumans have a Minority Report style precog named Ulysses Kane, and everybody wants a piece of the future. So they're arguing over whether we should be arresting people before they do crime. Yes, folks, that is the plot of Minority Report.
Very famous sci-fi novel.
Like hugely famous Steven Spielberg movie, and they just are like, we're doing this for a giant crossover. Okay.
What if we did a Minority Report? And here's the thing. Again, we're not talking about Civil War II as a whole, except for we kind of are for a while, because the talking's the show. They do try, in some instances, with some very specific writers, to make that an interesting premise. Like, okay, but what does it mean if Ulysses is actually always right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a interesting nugget here of Minority Report, but there's not a Minority Report. It just, this is the truth now.
Yep.
Okay. There's something there. Does not actually get used well, except for, and I think this is after Civil War II even, except for in Brian Michael Bendis's Jessica Jones follow-up series, where he does a really good story about that.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, there's a story where they think Ulysses is wrong about something, and it turns out no, he super wasn't. Y'all just let your guard down, because we said this guy is always right. Like, that's the rules we're laying out, is that he's never wrong about this. Anyway,
we should probably set the X-Men setting too, because it's important to delineate which X books are crossing over in this particular title as well.
It's Extraordinary X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. The Extraordinary X-Men team is the one that had Storm leading it, and Old Man Logan, and Magic was there, and Jean Grey was there, but as 05 teen, and then other people, Nightcrawler and Colossus were there too. It's just and Iceman. Look, it's not a great book.
The center, the book that Cullen is much more concerned about is his own, which is Magneto's team of Sabretooth, Psylocke, Phantom X. Who else is on this team?
Mystique sometimes, Mystique, Archangel sometimes.
You're right.
Monet Saint Croix.
Yes. So it's all the sort of, are they a good guy or are they a bad guy? I don't know. And of course, Magneto takes great interest in Ulysses Kane. And, this story is about whether Magneto is, I don't know, going to abduct the kid. Is he going to kill the kid? Do the rest of the other X-Men stop him? Do they help him? Does any of this sound interesting?
Here's the thing. Storm is like, oh, well, we're helping out the Inhumans, so there's not a war, which weird flex, weird decision for her to be so cordial about all of this, because the Inhumans sure aren't lifting a finger to do anything about it. And Storm and the Extraordinary X-Men are being very respectful of the fact that, well, this is what makes the Inhumans inhuman, so it's like we're doing a genocide to them if we get rid of it. Whereas it's literally killing people. But like, the Inhumans just wouldn't have powers. So it's kind of like, what if we took away the sports cars from all the rich kids and they had to drive regular cars?
I mean,
that's not fair to the rich kids.
The first,
so we should let them kill the other children with the sports cars.
That's a great analogy there, because our 4 issues does begin with some elite Richie Rich mutants protecting themselves in a walled off luxury apartment from the Terrigen Cloud, only to have Magneto burst in with the, sort of ragged youth of the town who they, weren't going to protect. And then there's Cullen Bunn's like so many Magneto, Sentinel humans that are there because
hold on,
Bunn
pause.
Like to pull in the cool thing from his other series.
Adam, that's not Cullen Bunn pulling from his other series. That's Operation Zero Tolerance, buddy. Those are Prime Sentinels from Operation Zero Tolerance.
But aren't they still the Sentinels that he found in Magneto's solo series too?
No, those were also just Cullen Bunn doing Operation Zero Tolerance stuff.
Oh, okay. So they're still the same. I thought.
Yeah, it's still like the same general. No, I do have logistical questions from the canon of X-Men and also the growth rate of mutants as a population, given that in publishing time, like just a spell before this, there were no new mutants. Right. And how there's not just an army in New York City of vagabond mutants, but also a cadre of ultra wealthy elite mutants.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't, but I do like Magneto standing up for the proletariat.
Sure. Yeah, and it's great. And it also demonstrates how stupid the Cloud is, because Storm is able to just kind of like storm it away. And I guess there's some psychic stuff that happens, but they're able to like move the Cloud. Like
They move the Cloud.
Like any other weather event, Storm does have some control over this thing. It just,
man, why was the big storyline Storm versus a Cloud and us wondering who would win?
Yeah.
They didn't think about that.
It's pretty stupid. It's pretty dumb. So
I know the Cloud was a Johnny Hicks thing, but Johnny Hicks wasn't being like, and also the Cloud kills mutants when it touches them.
I mean, I think when Johnny Hicks released the giant, he who smelt it dealt it. I do think it was a one-time thing. I don't think it was meant to continue circling the globe in a murderous rage.
The murderous rage, absolutely not. Circle the globe, I feel like it was supposed to be a plot point for whatever Matt Fraction got fired off of Inhuman on.
We do get
they really kept going after not just firing Matt Fraction, who was batting he was on a heater right at that point. Bud, that was Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
That was Sex Criminals had just popped off. Fraction was at his non-Godzilla related peak.
Mm-hmm.
And then they, for some reason, hired Joe Madureira to draw it. So they got 2.5 issues of Joe Madureira art.
That's what happens. Aside from the Cloud issues, the other issue here is that it really doesn't seem like there's very many stakes. Magneto recruits Rachel upon the idea that, he's trying to prevent the Days of Future Past storyline from happening again with Hounds. When he finally gets to Ulysses and Ulysses shows him some version of the X future, it's pretty underwhelming. There's not much of excitement here. It kind of looks like Old Man Logan has beheaded Zorn, and that's like the most exciting thing on this 2-page spread. It's like, what are we trying to avoid here that's so apocalyptic and terrible that Magneto is willing to risk everything for? And just the stakes of this story seem incredibly low and not really all that interesting.
Here's the thing: Magneto being Magneto, being great, being our best friend, does attack the Inhuman city of New Attilan so that he can get to Ulysses, so that he can be like, look, I'm not going to give the Inhumans a weapon that tells them everything that's going to happen. I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw some nails at this kid.
Yeah,
that's just what's going to happen. By the way, the Civil War side of this is that Nightcrawler decides, actually, I'm on Magneto's team, and Psylocke decides, actually, I'm on Storm's team. And that lasts until the end of this event when they switch back with nobody really caring all that much about it.
No lasting consequences whatsoever to this story, because it all still has to go back and conclude in the actual Civil War miniseries that's standalone. So it's not like anything here is going to have anything going on. Now, is Cullen doing his best to kind of play with characters that he likes and set them up against each other? Sure. He's got the whole Gambit Phantom X thing, which is,
that's fun.
Moderately enjoyable, right?
Given the rest of the book, I am delighted by Gambit and Phantom X having a Captain America Civil War style fight where there aren't actual stakes and they're like, yeah, we're friendly, we're good, but we are going to do this fight right now.
Right.
You don't feel like these guys hate each other. They're flirting and it's cute.
It's a very fun rivalry, and that's great. I don't think that Bricardo's art serves the story particularly well either. There are points where it looks fine, but a lot of parts it's very inconsistent.
Which is Bricardo's just did a good run on Alien.
Okay.
With Declan Shalvey that I'm not enjoying every Marvel comic right now. I am oddly enjoying the Alien side of Marvel comic a lot right now.
Hey, Alien rules.
I'm becoming an Alien guy. I've only seen Adam, let's see, 1, to I've
Yep.
seen Alien. I've seen Aliens.
Aliens. You seen
I have
3?
seen. I have not seen Alien 3. I
Okay.
have seen technically all of Alien Resurrection, but I watched it when I was maybe 7 years old. My dad thought it was appropriate
Whoa.
for children. He was wrong. I did not
Great
enjoy that
choice.
film.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy that. My dad had some
How about the
interesting
newer
movie
ones?
I've seen Alien vs Predator, obviously. Duh, who hasn't?
Okay. How about AVP 2?
I've not seen AVP 2.
Don't. It's terrible. The first one is a lot of fun, and the second one is really bad. So you can skip.
I have seen Prometheus.
Okay.
How
about Covenant?
I've not seen Alien Covenant.
Okay. I enjoy Covenant.
I hear that one has Danny McBride in an Aliens.
Sure does. It has some interesting cameos in it.
I feel like Danny McBride in an Aliens is kind of like what I'd want in this world.
Definitely check it out. I enjoyed that movie. I know a lot of people didn't, but whatever. So Ricardo, I mean, come on, this is almost 7 years ago at this point. It's just okay.
It's not good. This is at the start of Ricardo's Marvel career. Like this is the third or the fourth Marvel comic they did.
Sure. So this is just not that great. And it makes for an interesting conversation more than it does for an interesting book. So I did remember reading this when it came out, and reading it again brought me very little pleasure.
I know we're saying bad things about Cullen Bunn, but I need people to understand. When we were drowning, Cullen Bunn was there with us. He was swimming right next to us, trying to pull everybody back to shore. He was doing his hardest in a no-win situation. And I can respect the heck out of that.
Yeah, me too. And there's a lot of stuff I like. This ain't one of those things. So
no, this one's a bad one.
Yeah. Should we take a stab at ranking this on our big old list, Zach?
Well, that's the thing about this podcast. We do stab each other and others. We rank X-Men comics from best to worst. We've ranked 834 X-Men comics, which is too many.
God, so many.
But we're on that road to 900. I think I started making the road 2 jokes around 400. I can't. It was so long ago. 900's too long.
It's a lot.
Number 1's Hoxpox. Number 100 is the Mighty Thor Asgard Shi'ar War. Which, by the way, just an update for everybody. I did read Jason Aaron's Ghost Rider. I know we're all waiting to hear my thoughts on it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And my
thoughts?
My actual thoughts is I kind of think the Daniel Way run is a little more fun than the Jason Aaron run.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. But when the Jason, there's like a couple of issues where the Jason Aaron run really cooks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's one issue where it's Tony Moore drawing it, and it's Ghost Rider fighting a demon trucker.
Oh, is that the one you just posted to social? Because that looked amazing.
Oh no, you're thinking of me reading the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider with Trad Moore.
Oh, okay, not that.
Yeah,
Moore. Other Moore.
That's Tony Moore. Tony Moore from the guy who got screwed out of the Walking Dead money.
Oh, that guy.
No one thinks about how Robert Kirkman absolutely screwed both his collaborators on The Walking Dead and Invincible. No one talks about that. And he runs Image Comics, which is all about the artist, right? Creative rights.
Not if it's Skybound.
I'm just saying it's interesting and upholding the legacy of Image from the 90s. Anyway, general thoughts are Jason Aaron's Ghost Rider. Not 100% my thing, but there's some good parts in. There's an on fire motorcycle man. By the way, in case anyone was curious on my thoughts on the first arc of the Felipe Smith Trad Moore Ghost Rider, incredible art, some of the best art that's ever been in Marvel Comics. I understand why Felipe Smith is not continuing to do work at Marvel Comics. Just trash writing. It's really bad, but it's covered up some of the best art. Like they couldn't have picked anyone better to do that. Fred Moore is just incredible there. Number 200 on our list is X-23 1 through 5, 2 birthdays and 3 funerals. Number 300 on our list is The Gentleman's Name is Magneto from Uncanny X-Men 104. Number 400 is that time that Cannonball fought Gladiator and then some space stuff happened in Uncanny X-Men. Number 500 is Death of X. Relevant. Number 600 is Dazzler versus the X-Men from Dazzler 38. Number 700 is X-Men Blue Secret Empire. Number 800 is Mutant X Origins. Number 1 in the worst X-Men comic of all time is 834, 2099 World of Tomorrow. Hey, Adam, why did I not know that Chris Bachalo drew Ghost Rider 2099? And why haven't I read all of that?
I have not read all of it either, but yeah, that was some of his pre-Generation X artwork.
That Ghost Rider is a robot with a computer
Yes.
body, and he has a chainsaw arm.
Yes. Kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, he's a ghost in a shell with a chainsaw arm.
Yes.
This is not as good as Death of X at 500.
It is also not as good as the Secret Empire issues that Cullen Bunn wrote of X-Men Blue at 700.
Secret Empire, also a bad event, though I'm going to be honest. I feel like we took a lot of what we were going through as a culture out on Secret Empire because it was there and maybe did not. I'm not saying Secret Empire is good. I'm just saying maybe we were bringing a little bit to the table when we were reading it as a people. As a people, we were going through a bit.
Yeah, but that sure didn't help, you know.
It did not improve morale.
No, it did not. Better. Okay, where you want to go? I just said it's worse.
I'm just clicking. I'm clicking at random.
Yeah.
You're saying X-Men: The Hidden Year 6 and 7. That's the time they meet Storm, and I think that's a better story than this.
Yeah, I do too. I think the first 3 issues of Claremont's Revolutions is probably better than this. Is it as bad as Captain Marvel 2 to 3, The Origin of Adam X: The Extreme? I don't know if it's that bad.
It is a coherent story that I can explain to you what happens in Civil War 2 X-Men. No one will be 20 years later begging Cullen Bunn to come back to explain all of the plot points of that in Civil War X-Men's Legends or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with putting that above that. Is this better than X-Force Youngblood? I kind of think no.
I don't know.
Because at 733, right above that is Ultimate X-Men, like the Ultimatum arc.
Yep.
And I think this is worse than that. Like, I think that Ultimatum arc's better.
Okay. But it's got to be better. X-Force Youngblood is the first one or the second one?
Adam, if we were smart people, we would write the first one or the second one on there.
No, it does. It does say that.
One.
Yeah, 682 is Youngblood X-Force, the first one. So yeah, this is better than that, than X-Force Youngblood at 734. So this is our new 734, Civil War 2 X-Men, X-Men.
And Cullen, if you're listening and you wanted to get through that and say, okay, well, now I just want to hear about what they thought about other things. I'm really sorry. I forgot you also wrote this other one.
He did write the second story.
I didn't mean to do 2 Cullen Bunn stories. But again, this is what we had going for us at the time. Because I've got to talk about a tie-in to Inhumans versus X-Men.
Yeah, so this is a IVX tie-in book. So we're in the middle of IVX with this one. And I had never read this one, mainly because it's a Deadpool book.
This is Deadpool and the Mercs for Money, Volume 2, 7 and 8. It's an Inhumans versus X-Men story. Now, Adam, do you know about Deadpool and the Mercs for Money?
I assume that Deadpool has a team of mercenaries that like money. And I do have a sense of who the cast of this book is based on reading these 2 issues. But
would you believe that is the second group of the Mercs for Money? Because the first group more or less quit because they weren't getting enough money.
I love it. That's a great premise. I like the idea. That
first group, rights. By the way, you're going to remember this. You're going to remember this when I say it. That first group was a group that had a spin-off book, Deadpool and the Mercs for Money. That was a spin-off of Jerry Duggan's Deadpool. And the team, Marvel tried to make a thing because at the time, like 2015, 2016, Marvel was trying a lot of weird and woefully unsuccessful solo spin-off titles.
Sure.
This is the team that involved Stingray, Terror, Massacre, and then the following 3 characters who legitimately got solo books, like miniseries: Solo, Slapstick, and Fool Killer.
Amazing lineup. Holy cow. That's great.
Hey, here's a weird secret. Fool Killer book is actually kind of good.
I'm still hung up on the fact that Terror was on the team. That's like a 90s flashback. Holy cow.
Terror did not get a book.
No, but
they should have brought back Terror Inc. They really should have.
Yeah. I mean, this lineup is a lot of fun too, right? Because we've got Deadpool, Ren Kimura, Machine Man, Hit Monkey, Domino, and Gorilla Man from the Agents of Atlas. It's a pretty great lineup.
Now, what do you know about Ren Kimura?
Oh, I don't know anything about Ren Kimura. I just read her name.
That's fair. She is a Cullen Bunn OC.
Okay.
That when said fart cloud did go through everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone was creating new characters, and he created her for the Fearless Defenders book that he was doing.
Oh, okay.
A all-women team that he was doing that I have heard and is in a published book at least turned one person gay.
Wow. Okay.
That's not a joke. Read the book Heretic. It's an autobio that just came out earlier this year. I was not expecting while I was reading this book about religious trauma to be like, anyway, so I read this book called The Fearless Defenders by Cullen Bunn, and that made me gay. I was like, wait, what? Why is this happening in my book about religious trauma? Why am I getting Cullen Bunn content?
Love it. That's great. Now we start this story in another timeline without realizing.
We start this story in the
it's 5 years into the future, and terrible things have apparently happened. Things are not good.
IVX went so bad.
Yeah, the Mercs for money are still fighting members of the Inhumans. Just things are not great. And
Lash is here. You remember Lash from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Sure. It turns out,
Adam, you know that Lash was in Joe Madureira's Lash from the Inhumans was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really pulled out some wacky stuff, so it does not surprise me.
Including Ghost Rider.
They had a Deathlock. They had a contemporary Ghost Rider. Like it's pretty wild.
Did I watch all the Robbie Reyes scenes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider very recently? Maybe.
Yeah, of course, man. You got to study for your new podcast.
By the way, this is what Lash looked
me?
like. I just sent you all the pictures of Lash from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, I remember this guy. I do remember that. That's kind of early in the show, even. Like
I think it's like season 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, it was that. What is that guy? What is that actor's name?
Blair Underwood.
Yes. Yeah, he transformed into this guy, if I remember correctly. Weird.
Yeah, he was somebody's ex-husband. Oh yeah, he was Agent May's ex-husband.
Oh my god.
I got to tell you guys, it was a different era in 2016.
That Jeff Loeb was cooking. Just cooking.
I don't know what he was cooking, but he kept cooking something.
Speaking of media crossovers, these two issues do involve a particular character in a particular character design that is at the center of this alternate timeline.
No, I deny her.
You deny her. You don't.
I will deny her.
You do not believe. I don't understand. You don't want to accept the reality.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead is named after the song Negasonic Teenage Warhead by Monster Machine.
Right.
Like the bridge is, I will deny you, man. I will deny you, baby. I will deny you. It freaking rules. That song, if you've not listened to the song Negasonic Teenage Warhead by Monster Machine, it rips so hard.
And that's where the name comes from. The
Grant
version of
Morrison just really liked Monster Machine.
Yeah, the version of the character we're seeing here is much more in line with the movie version of the character. And she apparently could do all kinds of stuff, like change reality or matter, or I guess more matter. But
It becomes reality. And do you know why that's her power?
because it makes the story work. I don't know.
No, because they had to explain why she had the exploding movie powers instead of the powers that she had in one panel of New X-Men 115.
Yeah, if you go to Marvel fandom and you look at what Negasonic Teenage Warhead's powers are supposed to be, it's a lot of like, well, we think she could do this based on this panel, and we think she could do that on this panel, and we think she could do this based on this panel. So it's pretty wild.
I'm going to tell you the very recent Marvel Voices Infinity comic by Andrew Wheeler starring Negasonic Teenage Warhead did not help clarify things.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't at all. But what she has done here is use her matter affecting powers to basically get rid of the Terrigen Mist cloud. And somehow that made things worse. So we're 5 years into the future, and Deadpool and his mercs are going after Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who's being protected by a small team of X-Men who have survived. And
this team, who I was excited to see because I didn't realize when I bought this comic initially that it was a flash forward future story instead of an actual crossover to the freaking event that's on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Because the team is Nightcrawler, Polaris, Zorn, Rachel Summers, and Goldballs. That's a team of X-Men I want to see.
It's pretty great. Unfortunately, they don't get to do a lot.
They really don't.
No. And so I don't know. I mean, basically they convince her to change her mind and tell her past self not to do it. Right? I mean, because Lash and the other guys show up and there's a big brawl. You know, he yells, "All sins shall be punished." Who cares? But Deadpool does die. It does, at least appears to die, and this causes Negasonic to go back in time somehow and convince her younger self to not do anything to the cloud so that the crossover can continue, and so none of what we just read ever happened.
I'll tell you, during Inhumans versus X-Men was an event that I've said it on this podcast before. The Zero issue, the first issue, and honestly, Death of X kind of had me pumped for. Like, I was like, wait, I think IVX is going to work. I think they're going to pull it out and pay off what has been a terrible era of comics. As IVX continued, I bought every crossover for this. I was all
really in. Wow.
I did. I bought between the Inhumans issues and the Deadpool issues. And the rest of IVX after issue 1, I quickly realized actually this sucks and no one's actually invested in telling this story because Cullen Bunn wasn't in Deadpool and Charles Soule sure wasn't in Uncanny Inhumans, a comic that is not actually an Inhumans versus X-Men comic. I don't know what that freaking comic is.
Listen, I think we can agree that IVX is kind of a disaster. What I will say is that Coelho's art here on these 2 issues, not bad. I think it's
Aban Coelho's on this.
Yeah, great.
Aban's one of the best artists at Marvel right now, which almost feels like damning with faint praise. But like, I'm not upset to see Coelho on a book.
No, great fluidity to the characters. You know, you mentioned Joe Mad a few minutes ago, and there's a certain kind of quality to Iban's work that kind of that has like a Joe Mad type sensibility to it. It's not as cartoony,
no,
but he's got a pretty good sense of how to tell fluid moving characters, and I don't know, I think it looks pretty good.
Of all of the 3rd generation Imminent clones, Cobello is one of my favorites.
I think it looks pretty good. The story is meh at best. I think what you're describing, this idea of these like fun lineups, I love stuff like this, but they don't get to do much. It's not
No, they
even that
don't.
good of a fight scene. They just sort of, both of not both. I've just noticed that like a lot of comics are willing to just do kind of like a 2-page. I feel like there was one of these in the Civil War X-Men book too. Like they'll do a 2-page fight spread with no dialogue, and like that's the fight scene. And you're like, okay, well that looked pretty and it had a lot of characters on it. But I would love to see a little bit more fight choreography or like some interactions between the characters or whatever.
So Adam, here's the thing. In a comic,
Mm-hmm.
when you draw a panel and you see like someone throwing a punch,
Yeah.
when does the punch hit?
Well, now we're getting into like could be
I'm
okay.
going somewhere with this. I'm
a
going
lot of
somewhere.
answers to that question, Zach. So
A lot of
please
answers
enlighten
to
me.
that. Normally what you'll draw is, and you can explain this better, I'm sure. I'm not trying to art-splain to you.
No,
But you'll draw
please.
like you'll show the wind up and like going through, and then panel break, and then you'll show the aftermath, the follow through, the backswing of everything.
It's one way to do it. Yeah.
Often the hit happens in between panels.
Right.
And that's important in my mind because that's what fight scenes in comics are really about. They aren't just about look at all these characters I can draw and look at all these cool moves that I can show. It's about the buildup, the emotional, energetic buildup of it, and it's about the release of that energy, the dissipation of that tension to make you feel like, yes, this was valuable. And so many comics don't follow that very basic principle of a fight is not just drawing a punch. It is what you build up. It's what you let out. It is everything that's going on. And like the fights in this book are because, well, there should be in this Deadpool, Inhumans, X-Men comic, there should probably be a punch or two.
And there are. It's just it feels flat. So
because
I
there's
appreciate
no emotional
the effort.
resonance to any of this.
No.
No one cares about this flash forward story. No one cares.
No.
Immediately upon reading it, it's because this is already a spin-off of a tie-in book. Your flash forward future doesn't matter.
Yeah. And tying it into the Deadpool movie is yet another thing where it's just like, okay, well, we've taken this one meta step maybe too far. So it's just okay. I honestly, I don't think this is nearly as bad as what we just ranked. It's just kind of like minor superhero punch 'em up stuff. And I think the major issue is that it's very unclear what the stakes are because I don't quite understand what the parameters are of teenage
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Negasonic, I'm sorry. What her power set is. It's confusing.
We don't know her. We don't know her. So with her being the emotional center point in her relationship with Deadpool, like I read the Mercs for Money stuff before this. It doesn't do a great job building that up. And especially in a 2-issue future thing, like it's just a whole lot of nothing, man.
Yeah. It feels a lot like, hey, kids, you saw this movie. That character you like from the movie is here. Buy this book. And there's not a lot inside to kind of like back up why I should do that. So I'm going to say that I think this should rank higher than Civil War II X-Men, but I don't know how much higher I would go.
I think this is better than number 700, the Secret Empire X-Men Blue stuff.
Yeah, this is probably a better effort than that. There's probably a little bit more to offer, but I don't know that I would I go higher than Iceman Volume 1 at 684?
I would
definitely wouldn't go higher than 677 Heroes for Hope.
No, I would actually put it below X-Men Blue Toil and Trouble, where Beast learns magic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
I would put it below X-Men The End, Heroes and Martyrs.
Yeah, I think that's you You just highlighted Ultimate War.
I mean, Ultimate War's got that Chris Bachalo art. Ultimate War's probably...
It does. And
It's
even
also
though
a
it's kind of
nothing
mess,
story.
it's still nice.
Yeah.
I think I might put this ahead of Quest Probe, though, at 693.
I'm not going to argue about Quest Probe one way or another. Let's make the 693.
All right, great. So we've gotten through 2 IVX related crossover type things. Let's go 3 for 3. Zach, what's your third pick of the week?
My third pick is a explicitly Inhumans book. It is Secret Warriors Volume 2, 8 through 12. We esteem too lightly.
Can I ask? I mean, this is not an X book, so how are we justified in adding this to our list? Tell our listeners why this is a Battle of the Atom rankable story.
That's a great question. So everyone remembers the resurrection line. What no one remembers is that the Inhumans also had their own resurrection line that went on at the same time that involved the Al Ewing's Royals series, which only finds its footing at the very end. And then even then is a lesser Al Ewing book. There was the actually good Saladin Ahmed Black Bolt series with Christian Ward art. That book rules. And then there was Secret Warriors, which started as a tie-in to Secret Empire, which is not a good sign. Yet somehow it kind of pulls it off, especially in this last arc, because this last arc is about Mr. Sinister and Dark Beast doing experiments on Inhuman kids just because they're evil. And Magic shows up because she's bored, writer Matthew Rosenberg wanted to write Magic in his book. And I love that for friend of the show, Matthew Rosenberg.
All right. So for those who are not familiar with this lineup, we have Quake
from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ms. Marvel.
The X-Men character, Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel.
Famous X-Men, Ms. Marvel.
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Devil Dinosaur, also an X-Men character from Fallen Angels. We know these things. This is a lot of X-Men content.
That is true.
Frankly, more X-Men content than some of the other stuff on this book, on this list.
And Inferno.
Unrelated to X-Men content, oddly enough.
That's true. But we also have Karnak, who is running the Inhuman business, which is being CEO'd by, this is a fun one, Ahura, who is the illegitimate baby son of Black Bolt and Medusa from the Annie Nocenti Brett Blevins graphic novel.
He was legitimized
then
later.
Got carted around.
Yes. But
Was given Terrigen later. Then was driven mad like his uncle. But then is the same little kid who is aging way too fast in Daredevil by Annie Nocenti and JRJR. So I do really enjoy that callback.
Well, okay, you may be expecting a callback or thinking there's a callback where there's not. He's not just aging fast because of comic book time. I don't think you're remembering, Adam, Uncanny Inhuman 0, the book that got released and X-Men fans got very defensive because they were like, Uncanny's our word. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah. What's
why
going on here, Marvel?
That's our word? You can't say that. That's our word. Yeah. X-Men fans are the worst. We were really going through it for a little bit, people. Anyway,
sure were.
A comic where Kang does steal this baby and take him into time and grow him up into 16 and he comes back as a businessman.
Yeah, so we've got Maddie Rose on the words, and then interesting combination here. We have Javier Garron doing most of the artwork, but there are certain scenes,
mostly the Karnak scenes,
that are done by Will Robson, who has this. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a very kind of like cartoony, almost Todd McFarlane style, as opposed to what Javier Garron is doing. It's a weird kind of thing when you flash between the two, but at least they separate by scene. It's not like mid-scene you switch artists for the most part.
Right.
So it's workable.
Well, and I think I am historically not a big Will Robson fan. In fact, like I don't gel with his style in almost everything I've read.
Totally
However,
fair.
I do think pairing him with Garon is a really intelligent pick here, because even though how they are cartoony is different, Garon has a lot of stylistic overlap with Robson. Thick lines. Garon has very cartoony, expressive characters. Now, cartoony in a different way. Like Robson's cartoony is like a Dennis the Menace or Todd McFarlane style faces and heads, where Garon's is a little more like stretchy and energetic in that
You
way.
see it all in the, it's all in the noses.
The noses are a
Will
big
Robson
tell.
is drawing these sort of like wide, almost like pig up pushed up noses all the time, sort of with like, it almost looks like everybody's got a big underbite, the way he draws heads. Whereas Garon is his features are very pointy. But I understand why they paired these two together. I can see why editorial might have thought there would be a good mix. Plus, it allows both of them to get a nice page count and tell this story.
It does. And do you know how I knew that secret? This is before Matt Rosenberg had written X-Men. Do you know how I knew that Matt Rosenberg was going to be a good, like a guy I like when it comes to X-Men? Real quick.
He writes a pretty good Sinister.
I mean, he does. But even before that, the thing is, in the first arc of this book, is the Secret Warriors, and there's more X-Men content in the Secret Warriors book at the start than there is in some of the X-Men books that were going on at the time. Because this is
amazing.
You remember how Shatterstar and Richter had big gay mustaches for a little bit?
Oh yeah,
that was this book.
That was this book.
That
right?
was Matt Rosenberg being like, these are the characters I actually care about, because no one cares about Inferno, and Matt Rosenberg is giving it his best shot to make us care about Inferno. Because here's the thing about this story. Here's what happens. Sinister doing some bad stuff.
Yeah.
The Inhumans team, the Secret Warriors, who do not have a name in this entire run, and that gets joked about at the end, which I love, because I forget, Ms. Marvel or Luna Lafayette, Moon Girl, say they should be the all-winner squad, which is a very fun, very fun little reference there. But they're trying to stop him. Magic decides to help out because Matt Rosenberg wanted to write it. And you have to really, what this book is more about is the dynamics between these teams. And there's a really good dynamic, because Quake feels like she should be the leader, and she's obviously not. Inferno feels like he should be the leader, and he's obviously not, but he's hooking up with Quake. While Ms. Marvel has like a little crush on him, but not like a real one, but enough that like she feels weird about it. In the meantime, Moon Girl is the smartest person on Earth and actively working against Karnak. So kind of the like 8-year-old is running the team
in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And Ms. Marvel has to be the moral center of the team. Like, there is a fun little like dynamic that's happening there. Then you have Magic, who shows up and she's like, look, I'm just trying to do this thing here. Let's go.
Yeah. They have to tell Magic not to kill people, which is pretty funny. And what's great about this is that you mentioned this whole idea of like Moon Girl versus Karnak is like this chess game. It turns out that what Sinister is doing is he's essentially been commissioned by Karnak to bring back the Terrigen Mists. And to do this, Sinister obviously goes to what he's good at, and that is experimenting on babies. The Secret Warriors,
like, honestly, an almost offensive
like
amount. Almost an offensive amount of baby experimentation that Sinister's doing here. Like, it's Mr. Sinister, and I'm like, Matt, are we taking this a little too far? Is there an exploding child at one point? Yes, there's a child bomb.
I was going to say, they return all the children, and it turns out that one of them is booby-trapped to explode, so they have to bring all the children back. And like,
except for the exploded one, who did kill so many people.
Yeah.
By being a baby bomb.
Oh man,
I love that.
I do love a good, Sinister being Sinister and creating like genetic monsters to just come like flying out and attacking these folks. It's a lot of fun. You can tell that Rosenberg is having a good time. You can tell that he's not super concerned with seeding things for like years to come. He's like, I'm probably going to get canceled after my 12th issue.
Did you read his letter in the end of the 12th issue?
I did not, but I did read
Adam, you need to read his letter at the end of the 12th issue, because he very explicitly says, you should call Marvel and see if they'll publish a hardcover of this. It would give him a good laugh. I imagine very few people bought the Secret Warriors book.
Oh, I'm sure, but it is fun.
It's kind of a shame, because this is a good comic.
I'm having a really good time reading this. I'm a big fan of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur at the time, and I thought it was very strange to see them put on a team. But if you read the book, Rosenberg does get the character. He gets the dynamic, and there's some really funny gags in here. Some chuckles, some laughs, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
It's pretty good, and it even has, like, the last issue of this is a denouement to the whole series and to this arc. And it's by Ramon Bachs and Matt Rosenberg. And it is Luna Lafayette tricking everybody to coming to her house, bringing her cake, and play board games with her so everybody gets along, which is the most ingenious and also 8-year-old thing to do. Like, it hits that perfect balance of, I'm the smartest, biggest planner you've ever met, and also I'm a child. In an incredibly perfect way.
The other really great part of this last issue is that they are playing the board game Secret Wars. Which is
playing Secret Wars,
which is a Marvel themed version of the real board game Risk. So every single nation that they are trying to invade is another like Marvel specific place, like Wakanda or Latveria. And that is one of those little things that you can only have in a fun Marvel comic. And I really enjoyed that. It's just a funny little beat. So
that's the thing. I
enjoyed this.
It's a fun comic. It has good character stuff. Like, I feel like every character in these 5 issues, like, has an arc. They all go through it, except for Devil Dinosaur, because he's a dinosaur. He doesn't need an arc.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs. But
yes, he does get to babysit at one point, and he also does get stuck at the top of a flagpole at one point.
Magic puts him there, I believe.
yes, to stop annoying her. But
Rosenberg's magic continues to be great.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, there is, always a fun thing when we have these weird standalone books of just misfits together. And there's some all-stars in this book too, like nobody would call Ms. Marvel a nobody or Magic a nobody. These are very popular characters, but when you mix them together with some of the other cast members, it really makes for some fun dynamics.
There's a lot of fun dynamics. I really do like Garon's art in this. Like, I do too. I'm not loving Garon on Uncanny Avengers right now, but I think that's more of I feel like that's a bit more of a coloring thing than anything else on that book.
Also keep in mind that Garon did not do the artwork for the most recent issue.
Right.
But I agree with you that, Garon is very talented.
I love Javier Garon, like, in general. Do you know how mad I was that he did that Avengers arc with Moon Knight? Like, the honestly, one of my least favorite times in comics was reading the Khonshu War crap in Jason Aaron's Moon Knight, because I'm a Moon Knight guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's Moon Knight, it's Javier Garon, and I'm mad at it. That shouldn't happen. Hated that freaking story. But I like Garon. I want good things. Garon is one of the artists. I think I first recognized him during Death of X and IVX, because he had to do fill-ins for Aaron Cooter and Francis Yu. And I was like, actually, I don't mind these fill-ins. These fill-ins are good. So happy to see Garon on here. Like, I kind of think, if you haven't read the Secret Warriors book, because why would you, an X-Men person, read this Inhumans book? I'm telling you, go read it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so I'm going to start here on the list. Up at 540, we have the first 5 issues of Extraordinary X-Men. I think this is better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, bud, I do. I absolutely think this is better than that. I think this is better than Death of X.
Okay, so we're up into the 400s now. Are we better than Cable and Deadpool the Burnt Offering?
Yes, we are better than Cable
I
and
think we
Deadpool the
are.
Burnt Offering. I'm going to say that.
I think we are.
I'm going to say that with a lot of confidence here. How do you feel about it compared to Savage Avengers, The City of Sickles?
Did I lose you again?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you paused. Right. Go ahead.
How do you feel about this compared to 404 on our list, Savage Avengers, The City of Sickles?
Very similar, group of misfits. I enjoyed this more. I just think this was a little more fun than that.
I also think this is better than New Mutants Truth or Death. Where do we...
Okay,
we have
so
Dead Souls on the list, right?
Up. Oh, I'm sure
that's at 46. Okay, yeah, this is below 40. This is below there.
This isn't that good.
It's not.
Yeah. Is this... I feel like we might be in the 300s here, because I don't know if I would put this above Capwolf and Hearts of Darkness at 304 and 305.
As a dyed in the wool Ghost Rider guy, I don't think I'd put it above Hearts of Darkness, a comic that I want to reread now. I'm like, I have a favorite Ghost Rider now. Do you want to guess which one it is?
Yeah. Well, I think Danny Ketch?
It's Danny Ketch. I'm a Danny Ketch guy now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing you wouldn't put this above Brood Trouble in the Big Easy at 316.
Jeez, I have not actually reread Brood Trouble in the Big Easy. I'm going to reread that after I read Rise of the Midnight Suns, of course.
Nice.
But no, I don't think this is as good. I think we're in about the right spot, because Glob Loves Man Kills is a book that I actually feel very similar about to this, and that's at 320. And I think this is better than that. I think this is better than X-Men Uncanny X-Men Disassembled at 319.
See, I was going to go a little bit lower because I have Longshot and Madrox at 343 and 344, and I don't know if this is measuring up to either of those. But I could be is this better than the first issue of the Purple Era of X-Force at 337?
Okay, I'm going to say at 335 is Neil Adams Savage Land stuff. That's probably better. That's probably better than this.
Yeah.
I would put it above the Circle Chase, though, from Deadpool.
All right. Well, then this can be our new 336.
Y'all go read that Secret Warriors book.
Yeah. Secret Warriors, what is this? 8 to 12?
Yeah, we get steamed too lightly.
Check it out. I mean, if you're a Sinister fan alone, this is a real fun little arc here.
This honestly, I'm going to tell you, this will make you a little more upset that Matthew Rosenberg was put in a compromising situation during his Uncanny X-Men run. Also, he had an artist that couldn't tell the story that he wanted, but that's fine.
Sure, but it also does highlight how fun Matt Rosenberg can be instead of how dour that run was.
That run.
We're not litigating that today.
Not yet. We have actively avoided relitigating that run, but I think if we went back with fresh eyes, we'd realize that run kind of has a few more jokes in it than we really think, and it's just more gallows humor. But I don't know. Unintentionally, I have a Matt Rosenberg trade paperback for What's the First Place from Here right behind me. I'm a fan. I like the dude's stuff.
Sure.
So
yeah, absolutely. Wow, we survived the partly cloudy weather of our episode today.
I think we thrived in the partly cloudy weather of our episode. This one, I'm curious where you edited it down to, because I feel like we talked about these stories way longer than we thought we would.
No, it's true. We did a solid hour here. So that was fun, though. That was good.
What do you got going on? Anything you want to promote, plug? Tell people about?
I did just write a little thing about the new season of Loki that is going to be coming out on Comics XF. Other than that, you can check me out on social media. Adam Rec on Blue Sky and Instagram, and Arthur Stacy on Twitter. And next week, Zach, what do we got going on?
Next week it's Adam's picks. And Adam wanted to do Mojo.
That's right.
stories.
That's right. So next week we have a Mojo TV takeover, folks. It's all Mojo stories.
I can't wait for them to do a good Mojo story. I'm so excited. One day they're going to do it. One day he's not going to be a trap character to trick you into thinking that you could be the one to do a good Mojo story. Because I understand the appeal.
Save it for the pod, Zach. Save it for the pod.
Until then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!